Welcome to Unison Beers, Homebrew Wednesday for the end of September already. It's crazy. Mostly this is going to be kind of an update Homebrew Wednesday. I'm going to try to keep it under 5 minutes. Mostly just have a few things to chat about. So some of you might know I get a little chatty, so 5 minutes might be unrealistic. But in a minute here, I'm going to turn the camera around so that it's facing out. Easier for me to drive. I'll show you where I'm headed and what's going on, and we'll talk about what we're doing here. In the bottle in the conditioning closet is the berry beers, the blackberry and the blueberry, or the blackberry and the raspberry that I secondaried that were part of the Blonde Knot batch I made. I really been trying to leave those alone. I really don't have enough of them. You know me, I would tend to taste it 3 or 4 days for carbonation and then 4 or 5 days for flavor, but I need them to be bottle conditioned. I only have a few bottles of the blackberry and 8 or 9 bottles of the raspberry, and so I got to give them, you know, 10 days, 2 weeks before I even screw with them. I just can't risk it. It's just an experiment anyway, and what's the point of the experiment if you don't at least give it a chance? Okay, and so then the other part of that batch, the 3 gallons that's dry hopped with the wild hops, I had went 6 ounces for 3 weeks, which should be up early next week. That should go into bottles, and we'll see how that comes out. Now that one I'll have 3 gallons of, and not a lot of people are going to get to fiddle with that one, so I might try that one early. We'll see, especially since I'll be starving for beer by then probably. And then the other thing that's left in the fermentation cabinet is the Irish ale, Irish red that I have there, and it's been in there for 20 days or so now. My number for keeping something in primary, if I don't have a need for secondary, I try to avoid it. I've talked about that before. If I'm not doing, you know, dry hopping or some kind of addition, I try not to worry about it. And my number is 3 weeks, and my number came from reading a lot of different sources, listening to a lot of different guys. Some guys said as low as 2 weeks, but what we're talking about is if you stay in primary too long, you have the potential to pick up off flavors from the true. And a lot of people say 4 or 5 weeks is the number. Some as far as 6 or 7. You know, don't keep it in there more than a couple of months. You know, but I averaged it all out. It came out a little higher than that. I backed it off a little bit and decided 3 weeks was my number. And so we're right about at that time. So I need to get it out of that vessel. And I really don't want to just rack it into a secondary because I don't have an answer to what to do with it. Here are my 3 options. We'll go backwards. We'll do the easiest ones first. I could bottle it. I could just throw in, you know, 5 ounces of priming sugar in a pan of water, boil it up, cool it off, throw it in a bucket, dump the thing in a bucket, put it in bottles, be done with it. It would work. I know it would work. It's, you know, it's the system I use currently. The beer would come out fine. But this was supposed to be the first batch to be kegged. The next option is something Jared was talking about the other night, which is putting the same priming sugar in it. I don't know if it's the same. There's a chart somewhere apparently, and putting it in the corny keg. Just put it in the corny keg and let it bottle condition there. Not sure about the temperature that would need to be at. If it was a bottle conditioning temperature, in which case I could probably make that work. Actually, you know, I could bottle condition it. Probably I could fit it in my fermentation box, and I could set it, leave it at 67, 68 degrees. If it needs to be colder, because they talked a lot on my Tuesday cast, Willie Pooh and Jared, who is Heavy Riff Beer, and if you haven't subscribed to Heavy Riff Beer on both JTV and on YouTube, look him up. He's got a lot of good information. He's a great resource. So, but they talked about at higher temperatures you can't get, when you're doing forced carbonation, you won't get very good carbonation because you can't get the CO2 into suspension in the liquid. You need cold for that, and you know that's true anyway. You know, when you bottle condition in your cupboard, you know, by rights you're supposed to then, you know, you're not supposed to throw that in the fridge for an hour until it's cold and drink it. You're supposed to leave that in the fridge for, you know, up to 12 hours, and the reason for that is to get the CO2 back into solution in the beer. And so I need to sort out what temperature to do that, but that's what causes the biggest problem with step 3. The third option, of course, is to keg it and force carbonate it. Well, I have a couple of issues. One is I don't have my CO2 tank yet. I have my regulator, I have the hoses and the clamps I haven't put together yet. I have at least one gas side fitting. I got the stuff to do it, minus the tank. But that's going to cost me 60 bucks. Now, maybe I could make that work, but then if I'm doing that, then I also know that I need to be able to keep it cool. And I don't, in my fermentation chamber, I could turn it down to a dispensing temperature or carbonation temperature, but then I wouldn't be using it as my fermentation chamber, and I want to put 2 batches down when I pull those batches out. I have my other little keezer that I had before, which I was going to turn into my dispensing keezer, and I can fit two cornies in there. It'll work. Except I don't have a temperature control unit for that one yet, and you know, that's another 20 bucks. It's not a big deal. 10 bucks shipping is what I picked mine up for last time. The other thing is that thing came from like China on a boat. I mean, I don't remember how long it took to get here, but it didn't come overnight. And so I'm kind of torn there. I'm not sure what I want to do about that, and so I don't know the answers to this question, so these are just the questions that I have at the moment. That's what's going on in my life right now, but I need to decide by tomorrow. And so, so that's what we have. I am at camp, and so since I'm at camp, I'm going to end this video, and I didn't do very good at keeping it under 5, but I'm definitely looks like I'm going to be able to keep it under 10. Happy Homebrew Wednesday. You guys have a blast.